Welcome to Pinball Mayhem. My name's Jeremy, and today we've got some pretty sad pop bumpers on Pinbot here, but we're going to show you how to tear them down, rebuild them, put them back together so they work great, and it's not all that difficult after you do it a few times. Alright, as you can see, Scott has already dismantled some of these pop bumpers, and no, he didn't break this, it was held on with hot glue. So yeah, this machine really needs some love, but I've assembled this one pop bumper. It's pretty easy to take apart. 2 screws on top, that comes off. Got the bulb within. Got a couple screws that hold the top portion here, and we'll flip up the playfield, but there's 2 nuts on that go here that hold this piece in, and this is pretty much all we can do from the top side right now, and we'll flip it up and dismantle everything else. Alright, can you see those?
As far as you know.
Fair enough. So the pop bumper ring is held on with 2 nuts here. You just pull those off and it comes off. There may or may not be washers on here.
There should be washers on the back side.
There you go.
Because that way you don't break the fiberboard linkage.
The next thing I like to do is pull off the bracket. You can leave the switch assembly in place, or you can take it out for cleaning, but the bracket is usually held on with 3 nuts, and we'll just take those off right now. Okay, got all 3 nuts removed, and this pulls straight off here, and there is 2 parts to the yoke. The metal will sometimes be broken, and depending on how far you go, sometimes you can reuse components, sometimes you can't. So this is one piece we will tackle. Then we've got the switch assembly here. On this machine we've got 2 sets of switches. One is for the pop bumper actuation, which is this is the spoon here. That is how that works, and this one is for scoring on this particular machine. The pop bumper light, the wires for it are right in here, one going down, one going up. Those will need to be cut or desoldered depending on if you're using the socket, and that is how we will get that off. So on this particular Williams assembly, to get off this metal bracket that's in here that holds everything together, these 2 screws need to come off. Alright, those are off. Gonna pull this out, and it's important to take a look at this because that's how it's gonna go back together. And how this is removed, so we tilt this out, we got the pop bumper spring, the plunger in this bracket, and the yoke assembly is in 2 pieces.
And will come out as soon as we get the grease off it that somebody greased and shouldn't have.
That's right. Okay, plunger fell down, but we'll look at that. It actually looks pretty good. Got the Bakelite piece here, and as you can see, this is worn on the one side, and the metal one is worn, but it's not cracked yet. So when this actually goes together, if we reuse this piece, which we can, we'll just flip it over, and we'll just assemble it like this. So everything's all tight again. So it's one way to reuse those if you don't want to buy new ones. Then the coil just sits on there. Coil stop on here looks pretty good. And then we got the coil sleeve as well. That'll get changed out. Then as soon as we get these taken care of, we can pull everything else from the top side. So as Scott was desoldering something, I thought of something important here. There is a rubber insulating sleeve on one of these. Why is it only on one? It's to prevent this from contacting this guy when it's in there, that there's a little channel for the wire, and you want to make sure that that gets back on there or something else that will insulate it. Alright, so we'll just straighten these guys out here. Of course my hands will be in the way.
Excellent. That's all right. I didn't even have it on the damn thing, so.
We'll lower the playfield back down and pull that up. Alright. Since we've already got the two screws removed from this assembly, we'll just pull it all out together. And if we straighten these out carefully, because we'll be reusing this socket, the socket can be removed. There's also another part on the bottom here. This is the first part to go down on the playfield. And then we've got your spring. And we got the pop bumper skirt.
Which does have a direction.
Yes. And then this is how the wires go in. And we'll probably remove some extra solder on there just so they fit through nicely. But yeah, this one's had it. This one's quite bad. So we'll gather our new parts together, assemble the top part, and we'll show you how that goes. So here we've got a comparison of the old and new components. We could reuse these pieces, but they're not very expensive, and Scott's got new ones, so we'll use new ones. So a little bit of color difference between the old and the new, but that doesn't matter as long as we're changing them all. And of course the big difference here, with the new ones, they're just bright white color. The original ones are more of a nylon color. You can, if you hunt around, you can find them, but we're changing all three, so it'll look just great with the white stuff. We've got all of our pieces here. That goes in there. That goes in there. And this guy goes there.
Jeremy!
That's okay. I do things multiple times. It's more fun that way.
Yeah, but I have this faith thing where, you know how to do everything, and then I don't have to figure it out.
Hey, everything's lining up much better now.
Holy crap, everything just jumped right back in where it's supposed to go.
Oops, I lost something there.
That's important. Just spring in there before you go start screaming that thing down.
Yep.
Okay. And if they come loose, you can always tighten them up later. You can get a screwdriver down in there. Pro tip, put the insulator back on.
First, before you solder it, and have to unsolder it.
And solder it again.
Ask me how we know. Alright, so since we've got the pop bumper body screwed in, even though we don't have the light socket on or the coil bracket or anything on, we can set up the pop bumper spoon. What's most important is that the spoon be centered on the peg for the skirt. How I like to do that is I'm lightly holding the skirt with my one hand on the other side of the playfield so I can feel it move, and then I will take the pop bumper spoon and just kind of press down. And you may or may not be able to see it, but as I'm pressing down, the peg is moving, which indicates to me that it is not centered. To change that adjustment, we're going to loosen the switch bracket here and try to move it. If that's not enough, we can loosen the switch stack and try to move it. And that should do it. So to get it, the reason you want it centered is because so if the ball hits it from any direction, it will activate the switch the same amount. And the pop bumpers will work much better.
Holy crap. Folks, he's like the Rain Man of pop bumpers, just so you don't know, in case you didn't know. He walks in and thinks hits like an anvil and plays like it should. He speaks to the pop bumper.
That's right. So now I'm just going to loosen it just a little bit because we got our fine adjustment pretty good. Or actually our gross adjustment. Now we're just trying to do a fine adjustment with these. Sometimes these are so screwed up from the factory that I've had to relocate the holes in the playfield for that, or modify the bracket for larger holes so I have more adjustment. Okay, that is centered now, so it will work much better. We're going to solder these up and we'll put the bracket back on. We got our switch set correctly, so it should be nice. We'll call it good from there. Probably do a switch gap adjustment on it, but you guys know how to do that. Here's all the pieces. We've got them cleaned up. I'm going to start by assembling a sub-assembly here. And I'm just looking at the other pieces to make sure I get everything in order. So we've got the plunger. And we got the bakelite that goes on first. Now, originally, this was in like this. But we're going to flip it over because we're reusing it. And it'll go like this. Then we've got the metal piece. Originally it was like this. We're going to flip it over. So it'll go like that. And everything will fit tighter together. We've got the spring. Goes like that. And we've got the assembly here. Should, just a little bit of persuasion, slip in, hopefully. There we go. Now the sub-assembly is together. Can bring in our coil bracket. After we get our new sleeve in here.
And explain which way the sleeve's got to go, Jeremy.
I think it's got to go like this.
Are we sure?
I think we're sure.
Okay.
Because if we go like this,
Coil's got to go in the other way.
I'm looking at this coil.
Yeah. No, I mean if we put it in that way, then the coil's got to get flipped
True.
around.
True.
It'll work either way, but you don't want the assembly like that.
That's true. Probably hit the switch and whatever.
Yep.
So, yet another reason to take one apart at a time. Unlike what I do is take them all apart and just figure out how it goes later. Alright, so we got our sub-assembly here. Got the coil sitting in its bracket. Gonna nestle this in and it'll slot right around the bit of the coil sleeve. And when I put it together, I'm going to be pushing down quite hard on this piece so the coil does not slop around and get the best pop bumper action possible.
Fun fact, Bally actually puts a spring washer in between their coils and the assembly at the top to keep more pressure on the coil.
You want these screws rather tight, but you don't want it too tight to where the screwdriver jumps out of the slot and ruins the screw for the next guy.
Use a nice size screwdriver on those.
Alright, so I'm trying to rotate this and it is in there nice and tight. And we're just checking the action here and it's nice and quick. And we'll get the pop bumper bit on there and we'll just kind of slip everything together. Make sure our holes line up first, it'll make life easier. Here we go. It goes like that, and get one nut started.
Switch needs to be moved.
Switch goes on the other side. Very good. Good eye, Scott. Except, I don't believe so. Nope. It actually does go like this on this one. Yep.
Normally open.
Yep. And then that's another thing, because games are set up differently, so you gotta play around with it and figure out which way it goes, because it might not be assembled correctly when you get it. These games have been apart quite a few times. Again, like I said, you only have to... We'll start out just by getting the one nut on tight.
This is where you're going to remind everybody that you actually should be hand tightening, not using a electrical tool so you don't over tighten and strip. Because if you break one of these studs, you are going to be a very unhappy person.
Excellent tip, yes. As you can see, we're only using hand tools. And these are sort of like a strange nail, I suppose you could say, a threaded nail that goes through the playfield. And they're real bare to get out and put back in too. So just using hand tools here. And as I'm looking at this, I see that I did forget the washers that go on the main part of the pop bumper here, but we're still okay because this assembly will pop off. And those washers will be easy to put on. We are reusing the old washers because nobody's going to see them and they're not broken. So we'll carefully slip that on there.
Of course, it's just going to pop right back in there like it's supposed to.
Oh, of course. There we go. We just got a couple nuts for them. Perfect. These guys started here, just a couple turns by hand. And these might be a different size than what I was using before, but nope, they'll work. It's a tight fit around the side of the coil, but it's usually not an issue. Just kind of switching back and forth here between them just to make sure it doesn't bind up at all. Fairly snug is what I would say. You don't have to go crazy. You don't want to crack the Bakelite. Test the action of it. Seems good. We'll go to the top side. And not much left to do. We got everything assembled here. It'll loosen up a little bit. It's a little tight, but even just actuating it just that little bit, it's loosening up. And light bulb goes in, and the pop upper cap goes on, and then you're done.
Okay, say something nice to the viewers.
Welcome to Pinball Mayhem.
Welcome. I'll try that again.
Welcome to the D&D world.
There you go.